And we are live. Welcome to Dubb's Action Online Summit, where we give you actionable advice. Today, we have an expert with us, Alex Sheridan. Now, what we're going to get into is this idea of unleashing your creative for video marketing and so many things more. So, Alex, if you could start with a quick bio and let's get into it.
Yeah, what's up, guys? I'm happy to be here. My name is Alex Sheridan. I am the founder of a company called Impacts Marketing. We focus specifically on how to help generate clients on LinkedIn through creative video content and through social selling.
Oh, wait, Ruben, I think you're, let me unmute you there. Oh, wait, no,
Yeah.
the mute. Oh, it's that classic mute situation.
There it is. There it is.
He's back.
He's done. He's come off.
The first tip for video marketing is don't have yourself on mute in videos. That's the first tip. We'll get started with actionable advice. Alex, what is the big paradigm shift here? It's 2021. What's going on? What's changed? What's new?
Well, I mean, LinkedIn, from a video standpoint, is still probably the hottest platform from a B2B perspective. But really it's getting more crowded, it's getting more saturated, more people are jumping on. So it's really your ability as a company to tap into, and as a marketer, to tap into what your customers care about. What challenges are they trying to overcome? What problems are they faced with? Listening to your customers and really dialing in on that. But then on the back half, it's also being able to do that in sort of a creative way where you draw people in. If you're scrolling through LinkedIn, you stop somebody in the scroll. You draw them in the first 3 to 5 seconds with something that's going to engage with them. You use emotions, you use storytelling. That's becoming really, really big especially in LinkedIn. It's grown tremendously over the past 12 months, even that type of marketing where you're seeing humor, you're seeing a little bit of acting, you're seeing some musical, you're seeing some more talented or just talents being unleashed in people's content. I think that's on the content side. And then on the flip side, it's letting your customers speak for how well you do and about your results. So it's video testimonials. You're seeing more ads now where customers are getting involved and speaking for the client or for the company versus what had happened in the past where it was one person talking about their company and the results that they can get. Now it's really about, I want to hear from your customers. I want to hear from the people that you've gotten results for. So it's optimizing your LinkedIn profile. It's having video content that talks about the results that you've got for your customers, having them tell the story as you continue to tell their story through your video content.
Now, there's a couple of takeaways here that I think are really, really actionable. Number one is this idea of storytelling, entertaining, giving a hook, capturing people's attention. But then the second thing that's really interesting is this idea of social proof, validation, testimonials, something that's really tangible. Like, how is this actually going to benefit me? Here's a personality. Here's someone that's entertaining me, educating me. But how is it that I can gain some sort of value from this? So my questions for you are, number one is, how do we overcome this confidence hurdle that we might have where we don't see life as a stage, because what you just presented, it takes a certain amount of confidence. I mean, what was Alex like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago before you might have had this confidence? Or were you just born with this? Because I know it's very unnatural for some people.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely was not born this way. 5 years ago, I wasn't even making videos. I didn't even know how to make a video. And I actually started, I think it was about 7 years ago, I started making a few videos on YouTube. I was working at a corporate company at my full-time job at the time, which I left last year to pursue this business full-time. And I made a few videos on YouTube, and I was just trying to deliver value to my customers at the time. I'd get on there and shoot a couple minute videos and just post them on YouTube. And was curious to see what was going to happen. I had no clue how to market at that point. But what I learned real quickly was that because especially back then, people just weren't making as many videos as they are now. And LinkedIn wasn't nearly what it is then. And I was posting these videos and my coworkers found out about it. And they kind of razzed me a little bit about it. And they're like, oh, Alex is making videos. We had this big meeting in front of like 50 people. And they're like, oh, they made a joke about, I was going through YouTube the other day and found one of Alex on video. And people are like, oh, it's like, why are you making videos? And like, who's laughing now? Who's laughing now? but no, it's just like your own insecurities kind of get in the way. I bring that up because people, what they do is they let self-doubt creep in. They let their insecurities from just, hey, what if somebody doesn't think what if they don't like the video? What if it doesn't turn out perfect, which there's no such thing as a perfect video. That's just a mask for insecurity, And so I think people have to get out of their own way and have to get out of their own head a little bit and just understand that you're putting yourself out there and going for whatever you want, whether it's in business or life. There's a certain level of uncomfortability, and there's a certain level of risk that you have to take. There's a certain level of boldness that you have to go out there. But what's the other option? You sit in the comfort land your entire life and you just do what's safe and what you think is going to, keep you safe the rest of your life. That's an option if you want that road. But I know a lot of us business owners and founders and marketers, and a lot of us, we want more out of life. We want more out of our business. And it's going to require you to take a step out there and go for it. And you're going to make mistakes and you're going to mess up. And that's part of the success blueprint.
Wow. That's really interesting. So moving on to more like LinkedIn questions, what is the best way to message potential customers on LinkedIn in your opinion?
Well, you have to talk about, you're talking about from a content standpoint or from a messaging standpoint?
Yeah, especially if you're trying to convert customers into clients. And just in messaging in general.
Yeah.
There's so many people filling up the inbox. LinkedIn is just full of so many messages. Is there any strategies you could give? And what you were just saying, I think plays into that in the sense of like you have to come at it from a human place in some sense. But how do we tap into that?
Yeah. So there's two sides to really speak to your customers. One is obviously through content, right? You show up in the newsfeed and you're talking about relevant things that matter to your potential clients. What can you help them with? You're giving away your free tactics, tips, techniques. And video is such a great way to do that because you can mix in some of a little bit more of the creativity. People get to see your personality. They trust and get to know you to a deeper level than they just can't do over text. So video is powerful in that regards. It's also powerful from a messaging standpoint. People forget that you can use you can use videos in your messaging, whether you use Dubb or whether you use it just in the regular app. And the best way to do it, to your point, is you've got it in a crowded, very noisy world where people are getting text spammed, spam, text. When you hit them with a video message that's maybe a little personalized and it's tailored to that customer, that potential customer, that really it's almost like the wow factor when they get it. I send video messages every single day. And people are just like, whoa, I didn't even know you could do that, And secondly, man, I get so many sales pitches. It's actually nice to hear from somebody that wasn't trying to pitch me, that was trying to start a conversation with me. Maybe that I've engaged with their content first. People forget about secondary content, which is you engaging on other people's content, starting conversations, then sending them a message. Now it's a little bit warmed up. But what people want is they want the easiest route possible. A lot of people want just, how do I get on here and just send as many messages as I possibly can. And the problem is you can do that. You can automate, but there's risk with that. And in my opinion, I think it diminishes your brand. You can get kicked off LinkedIn for that kind of stuff. But sometimes people are just like, I want the fastest and the mass produced way. It's just, the problem is it's what every single other marketer, recruiter, everyone else is doing. So you're not building a unique brand. You're not standing out, and you're positioning yourself as, hey, I'm just the spammer. So I think, to your point, don't always look at the easy route. Look at the most effective route long term, and video messages and engaging with some context before you actually reach out is one way to really do it.
One of the things that I think about when it comes to a content calendar and the topics that we might share and the content that we put out or the videos is this idea of, here's our sphere of the things that we know, the things that we maybe even sell, right? It's this big, right? But here's the world that we live in, maybe we're parents, maybe we're, foodies, whatever the case may be. But oftentimes what we often do when it comes to content is we live within that comfortable realm and that sort of sales focused realm. This is what I sell. So let me center my content around this world of information. The opportunities, in my opinion, lie, in that larger sphere. When we actually go and say, you know what, I found a great restaurant that has amazing pizza. You guys have to learn about this. Or here's me playing the guitar, or whatever it is. Or here's just a little note of empathy or compassion so someone else can solve their problem. Alex, what is your take on how we can transcend beyond our small sphere of knowledge or content so that we can ultimately connect with more people?
Yes, it's a great question. The way I teach it, there's a couple different things, but it's almost like your niche content, which is very, very niche to what you do. Then there's kind of industry, right? So for me, it might be like video marketing, LinkedIn specific. That's niche. Then there's industry, which could be marketing, sales in general, right? Social selling, that kind of stuff. And then there's general content, which applies towards pretty much everyone. But when you start putting together that content strategy, you have to think about, there's 3 ways that I always say that you need to show up on social media. One is you need to show up as an expert. So you do have to put out content that demonstrates that you know what you're talking about, that you can solve real problems for people. You have solutions, you give away your value. The second kind is you need to show up as a human being. So like the other day, I literally shared a post, I think it was last week, where I was like, I was a DNF student and I bounced around at 3 different high schools. And I told this whole story around like just my upbringing a little bit, but there was a nice message in there that still resonated with my target audience, which was like, look, even if you don't fit the mold and you didn't, take the traditional path, that's where a lot of founders and entrepreneurs end up. We're the bold, we're the risk takers. We didn't do well in school. We had some things happen. We made some mistakes, but we're here and we showed up and we're here to make a difference and we're here to make some noise. We're here to make an impact while we're here. So it was a good message. It still applied to my audience, but it wasn't like, here's how you make a video, or here's how you create your content that converts into customers. So you have to think about, how do you show up as a human? Number 3 is, how do you show up as the innovator? So if you're making the same content and you're doing the same tactics and techniques that you've been doing for 2 years ago, like you've got to evolve as a content creator, as a company. You've got to look at new things, new ways to reach people. It's why I started the video newsletter, using Dubb now. It's like I'm starting the new community that I'm building off LinkedIn. So it's completely off social media. I've upped my video game over the last 6 months, over the last 3 months even. I've gotten better, and so you always have to be thinking about how you're getting better and evolving. So those are the kind of the 3 buckets that I recommend people look at when you think about creating your content strategy.
Very cool. Yeah. And a follow-up question for you is, what does your calendar look like? How do you get organized? How do you get to this place where you don't have to just wait for those inspirational moments? Because that's one of the things that I suffer from. If I wait for those inspirational moments, the distractions happen, I let loose, I just forget about it. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So creativity, it doesn't, you don't just call on creativity and then all of a sudden you can think of something amazing. It kind of comes in spurts, similar if you're writing music. There's probably certain times when, or, you're writing a script, whatever it is. There's certain times where you're like, oh, I got this great idea, this great concept. You write it down. Other days, you're just like, I got nothing. So here's an actionable thing that I do. This is how I create my content calendar. This is part of it, at least. First of all, I'm a few weeks out. So what you don't want to do is, okay, I got to post tomorrow. Crap, I got nothing. What should I come up with? Well, that puts you behind. And then you lose some of the creativity. And what if you're not feeling creative that day? And now you're behind the gun. And now you're thinking about 4 other things that you have to do. And so it's become stressful. And now you're really taking yourself out of your rhythm when maybe you should be focused on revenue generating activities instead of worrying about the post you got to create tomorrow. So the first thing is just get a few weeks ahead. So I write out literally Monday through Friday. I try to post every day, Monday through Friday. And at least 4 times a week, I'm posting on LinkedIn specifically, and then other platforms, it's a little bit different. But let's say Monday through Friday, I write out and I'm like, all right, Monday is going to be a creative video where I'm using the green screen. It's more the edutainment type stuff. Tuesday is typically a LinkedIn Live. Wednesday is going to be a interview style video where I've done something like this. I've chopped it up, macro to micro content. It's out there. Thursday is going to be a text post, and then Friday is going to be more of like a selfie video. So I go 4, 5, sometimes 6 weeks out. So I'm writing out and once you get ahead, then it's just easier to stay ahead because you're not backpedaling and trying to figure out what you're going to come up for the next day. The other side of that is once you get past the 5 or 6 weeks, and that's just using the Notes app in your iPhone. That's all I use. And if you got a Droid, I'm sure there's similar apps. So that Notes app, I've got those 5 kind of weeks blocked out, topic, and then I can script out from there if I need to. And then underneath that, I've got ideas. And so there's 50 to 100 ideas in any given time. That's when in the morning, I've got time. As soon as I wake up, one of the first things I do is once I get through my morning routine and rituals, I go get coffee and I sit down and I just create for 30 to 45 minutes. I look at the ideas that are in there. If some are really good, I can bump them up to one of those slots. If there's not as many good ideas in there, I start formulating new ideas based on some of the conversations that I've had. And I start sort of filling in those blanks. But the ideas come all throughout the day. The ideas come from, I'm on a call like this, I'm meeting with you guys. I'm talking to a customer. I'm talking to a potential customer. I'm doing another podcast or interview, and things come up and I'm like, oh, that's a good idea for a piece of content. I'll write that down in the idea section. And then you start trickling those back up to fill them as actual pieces of content.
Very cool. I mean, one of the things that I suffer from is sometimes dependency issues, and I'll explain what that means. Oftentimes, if I find myself wanting to do a video for YouTube, wanting to record a video for Instagram Reels, TikTok, LinkedIn, I'll get into this mindset where I'm about to record, I'm about to do it, and then I say, I need help. Okay. And that I need help, that's where all the bad stuff happens. Because first of all, I might just abandon the effort. Number two, I might bother someone on Slack and say, hey, I need some help. Can you help me with this thing? Can you help me write this or record this? I might get to a place where it doesn't become authentic anymore. It now becomes overproduced. I've lost that sort of golden accidental moment. How do we overcome this idea of being dependent on other people to create content? And how can we find ourselves to feel more self-empowered, knowing that this arm is our best tripod, that phone is our best camera, and this mind is our best writer?
Yeah, I mean, that's where it's like when you think about part of the content strategy is the content origin, which is really your content bank. Where's the content going to come from? And so sometimes it makes sense to sit down and you're going to write out a text post and it's your thoughts on something that happened that day. Other times when you're shooting a video, certainly I think there's, again, that goes back to like the human, the expert, and the innovator. It's nice sometimes just to pull out your phone and shoot a video. And people are like, wow, this is like the behind the scenes. I haven't seen this. Usually when I talk to, Alex, he's got this higher production. And so you have to understand that people want that. It's why we watch things like the after shows or the interviews with our actors, entertainers, that kind of stuff, behind the scenes of sports teams. If you're out in the public sphere, even if you're not a celebrity, of course, but if you're in the public sphere, it's always kind of nice to see what happens behind the scenes. So I would take that opportunity. I mean, Ruben, that's even a good opportunity for you to be like, hey, I'm sitting here and I'm hesitating to put this content out right here. And I want to walk you through what's going through my mind and what I'm going to do to overcome this. Because I think a lot of people fall into this trap, and I'm just recording this as I'm saying, right? And then boom, that's a piece of content, right? I have some people who are like, I don't know what to put, or I'm scared to put out my first video. I'm worried. I'm like, they're like, what should I even talk about? I'm like, put out a video to being scared to put out your first video. Like sometimes it's just documenting instead of actually creating something from scratch, which is why I'm a big fan of like when I go on an interview or a podcast or something like this, it's always recorded and I'm always chopping it up and figuring out what's the maybe sliver of 45 seconds or a minute and a half that my customers really need to hear or potential customers need to hear. I have it edited. I don't got to worry about it. It comes back to me and it's a piece of content. So you got to think about creating from scratch is certainly cool and you could do some creative stuff with it. But how do you also just document the things that you're going through that matter to your clients though?
Well,
That's
there's
advice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say real quick that there was something that I personally did in my life, which really helped me to overcome confidence issues. And this was in March of 2019. Actually, that's when we posted this. And this is Shannon and I on the Laugh Factory stage in Hollywood.
Amazing. Whoa.
Yes.
And this was a full stand-up situation. And it was a massive confidence unlock for me because we had like 1 or 2 minutes to go up on stage. And initially you feel massive amounts of fear, massive amounts of imposter syndrome. I'm not a comic. I don't know what I'm doing over here. But then you realize that the goal is just to be human and to make people laugh. And guess what?
Yeah.
Chances are the vast majority of people in that room are going to heckle. That's just why they go, because that's a form of entertainment.
Yeah.
But would I take advice from those people? If they said, hey, you should dress this way or you should do this for your business, would I take advice from them? No. But so why should I take criticism for them? So going through this experience was an unlock for me personally. And then the other thing real quick to show that proof that accidental videos sometimes work so much better than thought out produced ones is this extremely random video that I put on TikTok recently where you can see it's got 17,000 likes, 1,200 comments. This was a little micro viral video that I did, that's I think almost 1 million views now. This thing was so not mapped out. It was so not planned out. It was so accidental. I was literally warming pizza and I was like, I have to document this. And it's become one of the most viral videos that I've ever done. Now, I'm not, my dopamine levels are not taking me to a place where now I have this expectation of all my videos. I know that this was just an experiment and random, so I'm not expecting this. But that said, it's just proof that sometimes when we just document, and just go and not get stuck in our head, that the results are crazy.
And because here's the thing people have to keep in mind, it's not, especially for newer content creators or people that are newer getting on video, they have this mentality, almost everyone does in the beginning, almost, that's like, all right, I'm creating this masterpiece and then I'm going to be judged for the next 5 years on this. And it's just not true. It's like, we give too much power to one post. It's like one video, one post. People are going to forget about it. Like, no one's that cool. Even if, the most popular person on planet Earth puts out a video, 2 days later, like, we forgot about it. Right. So it's not that one video is going to get you to where you want to go. It's a collection of content over time, over a sustained period of time, with consistency, delivering value to your audience, being the human, being the expert, being the innovator. That's what's going to hit for people. People are going to remember how you made them feel over a period of time, what impact you made on them over a period of time. It's never going to be, I'm creating a viral video and here we go, and it's got to be perfect. So, I have posts that do well, I have posts that don't do well, and for me, it's just like, it's one post, I move on. I'm creating a ton of different content every single day for different platforms. And I know that in 6 months, I'm going to be higher than I was before. In another 6 months, I'm going to keep going. And so I think we got to get out of the mentality of just worrying about a post being perfect. It's one post. It's not that big of a deal.
So well said. Shannon, I actually have a question for you. How do we manage the expectation of engagement that we might get on the videos that we produce? I mean, if we had a video that had a micro-viral moment, how do we not let that get to our head and still stay in our element and keep doing the same things that we're doing, so that we just get into that like repetition? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it in the age of TikTok. It can sometimes really get to people where you'll get a post that gets like 15 million views, and then the rest of your posts only have 3 views or 17 views, and that's really something that's unique. Like for maybe, well, no, but you haven't happened for months. Like for some, it's just months of that, because maybe they're not content creators or they're not actually trying to do this. If you're a content creator and you're posting consistently on TikTok, you'll actually see a result just because of the nature of the algorithm. Over time, it'll give you a chance. And if you're kind of following the rules of like cinema, essentially, for like what's been built up for the years that we know about people's attention and filmmaking and storytelling, like, keeping it brief, keeping it short, eventually the algorithm will give you a little moment. And sometimes a bigger moment. And if it's good enough and it catches on, sometimes you'll like, with this awesome pizza tutorial that really helped people out. Now over almost 1 million people have seen it, which is within like a few days, which is so cool. And it can be repeatable if you keep going. But yeah, no, I mean, to your question, the short answer is, yeah, it can really get to people, and it's hard to, I mean, I've seen it firsthand on TikTok accounts. They're like, I don't understand, like, why am I not getting any engagement and likes, or even on Twitter, they're like, oh, I've stopped getting in this engagement. You can see, and there's been studies shown that it really can't affect people. There's no easy answer to this other than just you have to first be self-aware that it's affecting you in this way. If you really have that, if it affects you in that deep way, you have to be self-aware. And then like, what steps can you do to like really kind of put it in context? Like, this is just the kind of new world of social media. We're being, first of all, these algorithms, they outnumber us in brain power. We're up against these people who have like the PhDs in science, and beyond, who are programming these algorithms, creating them, and then they have a life of their own. So we just have to kind of really manage that. And so there's no right answer other than like it's a new world, and you have to be just really conscious of how you interact and how these social platforms make you feel. But then also see the upside too, because if you keep going after it, you can really take advantage of it. You just don't want these platforms to take advantage of you. So but I mean, I've learned a lot from this conversation. I wanted to quickly ask Alex a question. You're in the agency space, in the social media space, more than a lot of people are. So what's your perspective on another platform, like an up and coming platform that you're seeing? Because I know we talked a lot about it on LinkedIn, and this could be any platform. Maybe it's one of the ones that are established, but specifically for like people who are in business, what's an upcoming platform that they might be interested in other than LinkedIn?
Well, I think for most B2B business folks, like LinkedIn is hands down the place to be, but definitely Clubhouse is a really interesting one that kind of took the world by storm. I mean, that's one that's been pretty big, and the key with Clubhouse is it's very unique. It's got its strengths and weaknesses like anything, but there's not like stored content, so you can't make videos, you can't see people, but it's all audio, live chat rooms basically. And so you've got an opportunity to kind of meet people in there, get on a panel, start talking about your expertise, or start talking about sharing some stories that will help people. And then that leads to them connecting with you on Instagram or connecting with you on LinkedIn, which then can translate to a conversation, which then could translate to business. But I also think TikTok and LinkedIn, I think, are the two, from a video perspective, are the two hottest ones. Instagram still got a little bit of time left, but the organic reach there is just so much lower than, significantly lower than a LinkedIn or TikTok. So I think it also depends on where your customers are, what industry you're in, but LinkedIn and TikTok are the video champs in my mind right now. And then Clubhouse is making a run. We'll see what happens and how long it'll be around, or maybe if, I could see LinkedIn or a bigger platform potentially buying Clubhouse and having it as an addition to one of their platforms. That would make sense. I don't know. I don't just know if they got enough legs to stand on for long term, unless they add something to it, or they start having, it becomes part of something else bigger. But yeah, LinkedIn's hot for a while. So
that's a great answer. Thank you. So, and it's interesting with Instagram, because their live rooms feature, which is going to compete with Clubhouse, is coming out.
Is that right? Yeah, Zuckerberg would come up with something. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah, of course.
It's interesting because they're not going the audio route. That's like a video live rooms that's going to happen within stories. And so we'll see how that. It's interesting because, but what you said, Instagram is not really where the attention. It's not the hot thing, but it feels almost like how you kind of have to be on there to establish yourself. But there's so many features on there. They keep throwing it out there. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, there's just no more attention to give you if you're a newer creator and you're trying to establish, unless you have a big following. The attention is already from the creators who have been there the last decade or however long it's been, or it's in paid ads. There's so many ads that are running, where LinkedIn, it's different. And TikTok is just so, like, you can see the ads starting to creep on TikTok more, like you see it, right? If you're on there, you can see it starting to happen, but it's not as flooded. And then if you think about LinkedIn, they make their money outside of ads. They certainly, ads is a part of their revenue, no doubt about it. It's a big part. But they also make revenue from Sales Navigator, from Recruiter Lite. They've got premium services where, like, an Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, some of these other services, they're like almost 100% on ads. So LinkedIn's been able to make money and generate revenue from other revenue streams. And now, but you'll see it with LinkedIn, they'll start getting more ad heavy. They already are, and so that'll change the algorithms. That'll change the attention. There's only so much attention to go around, right? So it's like, where can we give it? We can only give it to so many people. And that's why you've got to stand out. That's why you've got to have some creativity. You've got to grab people's attention, use video, things like that, because there's only so much to get. So you got to go out and get what you can. But depending on what platform you are, that ratio could be, skewed.
Wow. Thank you so much for joining us. I know we're pushing on our time because we like to keep these action events to very concise and actionable for all the viewers, but you've been a fantastic guest, Alex. Thank you so much for joining us. And any final thoughts, Ruben, before we end this broadcast?
No, what a great actionable convo here. Just as I've been inspired by your content, Alex, and seeing you on LinkedIn and just saying, you know what, I can do it, because Alex, he's got a path for us, and he's inspiring us. And you and I have something in common, which is that we are accidental filmmakers. This is very different from what Shannon is. Shannon is a unaccidental filmmaker. He's been on film sets since he was 13 years old or so. So thank you for the inspiration. Thank you for the motivation, and the story continues.
Thank you, guys. Pleasure.
Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you so much, everyone. And we'll catch you next time here at the Action Online Summit from Dubb.com. Farewell.